I think that was probably one of the more memorable exchanges of the night. And something tells me that Texas Senator Ted Cruz had an idea, that issue of whether you're a citizen or not would come up. You were ready for that, weren't you?
Well, look, I mean, it was certainly telegraphed, and Donald has been launching those attacks every day for a week, and so I suspected it might come up.
Why do you think he is?
Well, I mean, we talked about it in the debate. I mean, he had said back in September he'd looked into it, his lawyers looked into it, there was no issue at all. And I think the reason is simple. His poll numbers are falling.
But is the bromance gone? Are you two, like, do you hate each other now?
Listen, from my end, I like Donald. I'll continue to sing his praises. I am not attacking him. I'm going to defend myself. I'm not going to sit there and just...
But I noticed in the past, Senator, you would slough it off, maybe with a little Reagan humor and all. And you did have a humorous response, but you were not going to take this lying down. So how did you and your staff decide how to go about handling this?
Well, listen, it's shifted into a different phase. Once we began taking the lead in the Iowa polls, you saw Donald seem to get very upset about that. And event after event, he would give 5, 6, 7 minute, basically lengthy attacks directed at me.
But you must have known that moment was coming, right?
Well, to be honest, you hope so. I mean, listen, if in this debate no one was taking a shot at me,
no, but I'm saying about
doing anything.
This unusual rapport that you two had, which stood out because everyone else with Trump, they were ripping each other's, eyes out.
Well,
but it wasn't. Now, I guess what I'm wondering about is the next time you guys are at this or a similar venue, the same old drill?
Listen, from my end, my approach is going to be the same with every candidate, not just Donald, but everybody else, which is
particularly Marco Rubio.
But look, on the early debates where we had, food fights and personal insults, right. And things got pretty ugly.
Yeah.
And I consistently declined to get in the middle of that. I don't think the American people care about politicians bickering like school children. So I'll have a policy discussion with Marco. I'll have a substantive disagreement on his support for amnesty and my opposition to that. But that's a policy discussion. I think Marco is charming. I like him personally. And in terms of the ad hominem attacks, I'm not going to engage in them with any of the candidates on that field. I think
what brings it out? I noticed, we always try. That's why we went a little over tonight, Senator, if you indulge us, because we want to allow you to respond to something. Then he goes and explains a record that he says you exaggerated, his inconsistencies, then goes after your inconsistencies and all. Do you ever feel that you're just talking past each other, though?
No, I actually think the American people are a lot smarter than many politicians.
Well, they don't know
and a lot of folks
they don't know the truth.
But they do. But see, that's the bit. They do know the truth. So the voters understand.
Is it fair to say both of you have evolved on positions?
No,
really?
It actually isn't. And the voters are smart enough. They remember the Gang of Eight fight. They remember that Marco was standing side by side with Chuck Schumer and with Harry Reid and Barack Obama. They remember he was fighting for amnesty.
So when he talks about issues like you with ethanol and politically convenient votes, what do you say?
Look, it is...
You wouldn't be the first politician. Is that just?
It is unfortunately the classic game that you see Washington politicians do, which is...
Well, your positions have evolved on that issue.
They have not, actually. My positions are exactly the same. My positions have always been that I'm opposed to mandates on energy. I believe that we should pursue all of the above with no mandates, no subsidies for anyone. And I would note...
But what changes, you seem to put a 5-year time frame on it.
That was in 2014 in the legislation that I filed. I put in place a 5-year phase-out because people have reasonable investment-back expectations. But my position is end every mandate, have a fair and level playing field, no mandates or subsidies for oil and gas, for wind, for solar, for ethanol, for anybody. And I'll tell you in Iowa what I've been talking about. There's a far more important barrier to ethanol producers than the RFS is a benefit, and that is the EPA's blend wall that makes it illegal to sell higher blends of ethanol. I'll end the EPA's blend wall, which will enable...
So you're not afraid that these guys are going to pile up on you and say, well, we think he's slowing down in Iowa. We think we can catch him, pound him between this and the citizenship thing.
Well, look,
we can knock him off.
Of course they're going to pile up. 3-4 weeks ago, just about every candidate on that stage was attacking Donald Trump. Today, just about every candidate on that stage is attacking me. And I think the reason is what we've seen happen is conservatives are uniting on the ground. Conservatives are coming together, and we're seeing that old Reagan coalition. We're seeing conservatives and evangelicals and libertarians all coming together. We're seeing young people and Hispanics and African Americans and Jewish voters and women and Reagan Democrats. And listen, I understand why the other candidates are very dismayed. If conservatives unite, we win. And my view, you asked before we went on air if the attacks bother me. Listen, I follow that old adage, if you're not taking flack, you're not over the target. The fact that they're throwing the kitchen sink, the fact that the mainstream media and the attacks are coming fast and furious is an indication of just how strong our grassroots support is.